Hey guys, it's Jill from the Prairie Homestead, and in today's video I wanted to do something a little bit different than normal. I'm taking you inside my working homestead kitchen and giving you a behind the scenes look. Okay, so first things first, I kind of need to give you a little bit of the backstory, and I also want you to kind of see where it's positioned in our house, which will make some of the other things I tell you later down the road make a little bit more sense. So the kitchen is truly in the heart of our home. We have our office to one side and our living room, which really has that open concept, to the other. So let me walk out here so you can see the view from the living room. And so as many of you know, we did a massive, crazy, extreme remodel project about 3 years ago, and the kitchen was one of the rooms that we completely gutted and started over on. So we bought this house back in 2008, and as far as we can tell, we think the house was built in about 1910. And the guy who had it prior to us had completely gutted the house. I'm talking new sheetrock, flooring, fixtures, everything. There wasn't a single thing in this house that was there before he got a hold of it. And on one hand, that was a big blessing because according to the neighbors, this house was in horrendous shape. It had a horse living in it for a while. It was trash. Some people were saying they should just bulldoze it. So it was a very sad story. So I'm glad he took the sheetrock out and put everything new. But then on the other hand, I think in the process, a lot of the original character of the house got lost. So it really wasn't that big to begin with. It was about 900 square feet when we bought it. And while everything was new and shiny, it was pretty much builder grade. So it worked for a while, but not only did we start running out of room when the kids started coming, but I kind of got tired of the plain Jane oak cabinets and the white Berber carpet. Side note, white carpet, homesteading, not a good combo. So in 2015, Christian and I decided we had enough. It was time to do a massive renovation. We basically chopped off part of the house, dug a huge hole over there, and started from scratch. We added the big living room, we added a new master bedroom, another bathroom, a full basement, and completely gutted the kitchen. Basically, we didn't have much of a house for about a year, and we lived in one room and ate really weird food, but I think it was worth it in the end. So looking out into the living room from the kitchen, it's a big open concept. We chose that on purpose just because we knew the kids would probably always want to be playing close to mom and dad, which is true today. We're doing a Play-Doh day. What are you guys making?
I'm making a fence. Mommy, I made a hair chicken. I made a hair chicken.
A hair chicken.
I made a hair chicken.
Cool.
Hair chicken.
Hair chicken. The chicken has hair. Let's show them what you're talking about because that sounds kind of weird. Let me see. Chicken has hair. Here we go. The hair chicken. It's a real thing, guys. So let me see if I can zoom out so you can see where this wall is right there. That's where the old house stopped. So where I'm standing right now is actually the backyard. So if you can imagine, our old house was basically this kitchen. We had the same footprint. And then the office, well, it's now the office, but before that, it was the living room. Not very big for couches and chairs and end tables. So we lived like that for 7 years. Well, maybe 5 years. I can't remember. No, 7 years before we ended up adding on. So the kitchen layout in here was actually pretty different. Originally, when we bought the house, the sink was over in this area. Then in about 2010, we built a different island and put the sink in the middle. And then with this last iteration, we completely did this new layout. But we ended up moving walls. Of course, we have much more space. We extended it a little bit this way. This doorway used to be here. So it's safe to say this is not super original. So the tricky thing with this renovation is, even though we had an old house, which I loved, and I love having old buildings versus new ones, a lot of the character, if not all of the character of this original kitchen was stripped, and it was gone, and it was not salvageable. And so I really tried hard in my own way to bring back character and a vintage vibe into this kitchen, even though it really couldn't be original. And I think that needs to be a topic that's addressed sometimes, because sometimes you can find these amazing Victorian farmhouses with all the original doors and windows and banisters and cabinets, and you can refurbish them, and that's amazing. But sometimes you have scrubby little farmhouse shacks out here on the windy prairie, and you don't want to bulldoze them. You want to bring them up to somewhat of their former glory, but you have to use a little bit of your imagination to make it happen. So first off, I want to take you through a few of the decision-making processes we went through trying to get the materials for this kitchen. And I did things that I know are not exactly trendy. I'm not sure Joanna Gaines would approve of all of my decisions, but that's okay because it's really unique to us and our style. So I guess first off, I've never really had 100% pure farmhouse style. It's always been rather a bit more of a rustic, Western vibe. And that's just me, that's just what I like. And so that's kind of the first decision we made. We decided not to go with white painted cabinets. So originally we had plain Jane builder grade oak cabinets from Lowe's. That's what the house came with. They were new. The guy had put them in right before he sold it. And I painted them a couple years after we moved in, which was great for a while. But then with this renovation, we decided to go with this rustic hickory. And yes, I know that closed cabinets are not currently trendy for farmhouse kitchens, right? Open shelving is what everyone's doing right now. But I don't have perfect matching dishes. And I also know that when I get in a cooking thing, like I throw stuff in there, you guys, and it's not always perfectly pretty and styled. And so for us, it just made more sense to have a closed cabinet. We had some local cabinet makers build these. They're really high quality. I think they're gonna last forever and wear really well. Now, one exception are these little bits of open shelving that Christian added later. And these are just rough cut pine boards. We have a little sawmill that we use. So these are just my little bit of open shelving that I can style or use for storage. And that way I can hide the rest of the stuff I might not want to see all the time and then still have a little bit of display. The copper sink is something we get a lot of questions about. I chose this in lieu of just the white farmhouse sink. I just wanted it a little bit more of a rustic Western vibe. We actually got this from Home Depot. It was pretty darn reasonable and I've been so happy with it. I think the brand is Sinkology, but you can see it gets a little bit of a natural patina. I do not polish it regularly to make it all shiny and brand new. I actually like the worn kind of older look that copper gets. And that's one thing I did in a lot of our finish choices for this remodel. I picked things that I knew would wear well over time. Okay, so the countertops, they get a ton of questions on these. That was not the easiest part of this process. They were kind of a pain in the butt. Butcher block was my first choice. I love the look of butcher block. And then we started looking at the care and the maintenance and the keeping of butcher block. So when I cook, I'm all about getting the job done and getting the dish on the table. And I'm not really good about details. I kind of come into the kitchen like a tornado. And so Christian, my husband, was like, are you really going to be ultra careful every single time you cook to be mindful of the butcher block? And then remember to oil the butcher block and remember to never put anything hot on the butcher block and be really gentle with it. And I'm like, probably not. So we decided against the butcher block, not to mention that the rustic cabinets with the rustic hickory and all of the grain, I think putting butcher block with that might have been a little too busy. So I thought I didn't want granite. So I'm thinking, well, another option is marble. Marble can look kind of farmhouse and cottage. So as we started to look into that, I realized that it needed a little more care again than I was willing to do. I'm pretty tough on things in my kitchen. I'm in my kitchen 90% of the day. So it's a place that gets a ton of use. I didn't really want to have to worry about the marble etching or being damaged. So we looked at concrete, but once again, concrete is porous and I just didn't want to have to worry about all the maintenance and upkeep. And it's not as tough as you would think. So we finally started looking at quartz, and quartz is kind of a man-made stone, which I didn't love that aspect of it, but it's tough. It's really tough. Now, a lot of the quartzes out there, I didn't like the pattern. I sound like a total diva with this. I'm not, I promise, but I am picky with my kitchen stuff. It has to be really durable and have the right look. So I wanted a quartz that looked a little bit like concrete. So we went through a ton of catalogs, none of them fit the bill, and we finally landed on a grayish quartz that had a little bit of that concrete vibe. This stuff is tough as nails. I think you can technically put hot pots on it. I don't usually try to do that on purpose, just to be careful. It's tough, it gives that nice neutral look, has that stone feel, it's heavy duty. I'm not gonna hurt it if I leave water standing on it. I don't have to do anything for maintenance. And we even went with a little bit of this fractured edge, so it looked a little bit more like stone, a little more rough and rugged. And we've been so happy with it. So another really big decision we had that I actually put off for about 2 years after the remodel was finished was the backsplash. And that was probably the hardest decision to date. So we actually left it plain old sheetrock for about 2 years because I could not make up my mind. I didn't feel like tile. Tile is so permanent, and I'm like, tile, no matter what I pick, is gonna get really outdated or look bad in 2 years, and I'm gonna change my mind because I know how I work. Any sort of like tin backsplashes or wood look that I've looked at, they were just too busy. Like, we have a lot going on here with these cabinets, and I didn't want anything that was gonna be just like, woo, and the backsplash. So I needed somewhere for your eye to rest. So I didn't want to do tile, I didn't want to do tin, and that kind of left us with shiplap. And I actually fought the idea of shiplap forever because it's trendy. I'm like, everybody does shiplap. In another year, everyone's gonna be tired of shiplap and it's gonna look so dated. So I fought it and I fought it and I fought it, and finally, the sheetrock there wasn't working, wasn't loving that. And I'm like, okay, we're doing the shiplap. And the reason I finally felt at peace with it is because it's what would have been original to this kitchen. And we were ripping out the cabinets and gutting this place. We found a few remnants of some plank walls over here that hadn't been damaged, and there weren't in the right position where we could save those actual walls. But I knew that that was true to the form of this original kitchen. So that gave me a little more peace knowing that even if shiplap becomes super outdated and the new shag carpet, this was original to the house. So I'm good with that. And my trick for decorating or anytime we do renovation is I try to pick materials that are pretty timeless. So functional is big for me. Timeless is big for me. I really stay away from trendy things just because I find that I can save a lot of money and time and hassle just by picking things that are not on trend but just classy and timeless. And so that's why we went with the shiplap. Of course, it's actually fake shiplap. It's just some plywood that my husband cut. We glued and nailed it up, and then I painted it, and this is a semi-gloss. I tried satin. That was a horrible idea. So it is semi-gloss, and I really like the look. It's simple and clean, and it gives your eye somewhere to rest from these busy wood grain cabinets. So it was a good call. Okay, so speaking of timeless, let me show you some of my decor or lack of decor in here. So I like to put things on the walls that are useful and things that I'm actually using. I feel like that gives a really fun working kitchen vibe versus just having pictures or decorations on the wall. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that if that's your thing. Some of my favorite things, well, first off, this cast iron rack. These are the pans I actually use. People ask if the wall gets nasty, and it really doesn't as long as I don't go nuts on the grease and I wipe everything down, kind of dry it well, wipe it before I hang it on the wall. We're fine. This, put it up here, this is not as old as it looks. This is just a piece of scrap wood that was all aged. I found it out in our junk wood pile. And I used Miss Mustard Seeds milk paint. That stuff is magical. I did a light coat of that. It's kind of a thinner paint, so it's a light coat of that, sanded it down, and then I add a little bit of hemp oil over the top to just kind of bring the colors out. And I've done that with several other wood accents in our house, and it makes it look legit old, and it's really not that old. So I'm a huge fan of putting as many tools as I can out in the open for not only ease of use, just because it looks cool as well. And so we actually got rid of our oven vent hood fan thingy in favor of a pot rack. And I haven't really missed the fan at all. I was scared I was gonna think it was like the biggest mistake ever, and I haven't missed it. So I have some more cast iron here, and then my amazing, wonderful, lovely pot filler. People come in, they're like, what is that thing? And it is a pot filler. And Christian was all about this baby when we were planning out the kitchen, and I fought him and I said, I don't need one of those. It's a waste of money. And yeah, I was wrong. I use it all the time. You just bring it out, fill a pot for canning or pasta or boiling, and it's so nice. One thing I don't like about this space is this door and this door. They're horrendously white, just like cheapo doors from Home Depot. So I'm on the lookout for an old vintage door that we can put in this place. However, I haven't found one that's the right size yet. So I'm still looking. It will happen, I promise. What else can I show you? Oh, okay, knife rack. This is just a piece of scrap wood out of our wood pile. It pays to have a scrap pile at all times. Christian put some really heavy duty magnets behind it and then mounted it on the cabinet, and it just keeps the knives out of drawers and from getting dull quite so fast. So we have cutting boards, all the wooden spoons, and of course the chicken bucket. And I don't have a dish dryer, I just use a towel, and I don't know, it's always full because dishes, y'all. And oh, I almost forgot to tell you about the window. Some of you remember this window saga on Instagram and on the blog. This is definitely not original, and it even wasn't original to this renovation 2 years ago. We did not have a window here, we just had shelves and plain old sheetrock. And I just realized this was a really dark spot in the kitchen, and Christian is like, what if we put a real window there? And of course I was all over that, and he scrounged and found this old vintage barn window down in our neighbor's barn. Thank you, neighbors, for sharing your stuff with us. And it was a fiasco. Long story short, there was a wire coming down this wall. We weren't sure if the window would fit. He had to build a casing for it. It was super exciting. Almost didn't think it would happen, but it's there and I love it. And as you might be able to tell, that's not outside, that's my pantry. Let me show you. So one of the things I don't like about my kitchen is I don't have an exterior window or a lot of natural light, which it's just what happens sometimes when you have older houses that have been added on a bunch. So originally I think this kitchen did have a bunch of windows, but I know somebody at some point, I think in the 1950s, added on this mudroom over here, and then we added on this living room. So now the kitchen, which was on the edge of the house, is now in the center of the house. So it just comes with the territory. Anyway, this is the other side of the kitchen. So this is our laundry room. That's looking into our mudroom, which is a mess. But there's the window. Hey, it still doesn't have trim on it. Need to add that to the list. And then there is some pantry stuff. We just have matching hickory to match the kitchen. So anyway, so this is laundry room, the kitchen's right there, but it works good because I can keep tabs on laundry and then repeatedly forget to put things in the dryer while I'm cooking. So it's fabulous. But I think that's most of the big things. If you have any questions about the kitchen, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Also, I would love to know if you like these sort of more impromptu behind the scenes videos, or if you like the ones where I'm teaching a concept more straight to the camera, or maybe you like a mix of both. So I'm working on maybe mixing up my YouTube strategy a bit for this spring. So I'd love for you to drop me a suggestion in the comments, let me know what you prefer and what sort of content you'd like to see me cover in the upcoming months. And now I've got to get to work in the kitchen. We're making Christian's birthday supper tonight. It's actually not his birthday, but we're celebrating it tonight. So I have a chocolate pie, I have homemade pasta to make, and some homegrown beef tenderloin. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Happy homesteading.